Welcome to the Enterprise Tomorrow Conversation Series. Today we have Jacqueline, someone who has seen the evolution of enterprises in Asia for a long time. And her views on how enterprises have been evolving and how it needs to evolve is something which has always inspired us. So I would request Jacqueline to give us a quick round of introduction on her background and what she is excited about. Jacqueline?
Thanks, Arun. Just a quick intro. Hi, I'm actually from aAdvantage Consulting. I started aAdvantage way back in 2002. So it's been a while. That was just before SARS came on. So now I suppose we're back. We are into the COVID period. But even worse than what happened in 2003. So over the last 18 years, we've actually been working with a lot of enterprises, government, as well as non-private sector organizations to look at how we can help them facilitate, their growth strategies, how they can transform so that they become more relevant, for tomorrow. I think we are in the middle, obviously of a very difficult, last 2020. But moving forward, obviously, we see that organizations who can quickly and, transform their organizations and be agile will be the ones, that will actually strive, in tomorrow's context.
Thank you, Jack. So, Jack, there is a lot of conversations about how enterprise of tomorrow will be vastly different from the enterprise of the past, or even the enterprises that we see today. So when we say enterprise of tomorrow, what kind of comes to your mind? So if I were to request you to paint a picture of how they look like, right, in say 4 to 5 short sentences. I know it's challenging and daunting, but can you attempt that?
Well, I think because of what's happened just in recent times, right, organizations really need to be super agile, to understand how they can quickly change, to meet the needs of their customers. So that's one. So the ability to be dynamic, to be agile, they have to build capabilities very quickly. So that's the type of, enterprises that will strive, in tomorrow's context. We're also looking at, organizations who can, who can actually build their capabilities quickly. Okay, that's 2. Third thing I think enterprises of tomorrow need to work on is actually how do they get actually all their people very quickly aligned to how they need to achieve their goals. So I think that's the third thing which enterprises of tomorrow need to actually work on.
Right, very interesting the way you put it across in 3 broad boxes. But all the 3 boxes are very deep and very challenging, right? So for example, let's take the third box of what you mentioned, which is about aligning goals, right? Aligning goals, aligning purposes. So how do you think the enterprises need to align goals and align purpose, right? And how important is it to do that? And how challenging is it to do that?
On paper, it looks easy because, we can actually put all our goals, on paper, and then we can, kind of like communicate it, through different means. But in reality, cascading the goals and making sure everybody is aligned to it actually is very time consuming. It suggests that there's many conversations to create this clarity. So not so simple. And I think the organizations who do this well have take the time to actually explain and work it out, with their team on how their work goals can contribute, to the organization's overall objectives are the ones which will be able to actually be more successful.
Right. So what I heard, if I were to rephrase that as like the business performance or the people performance of enterprise of tomorrow substantially hinges around the alignment of goals. So how the goals of the organization and the goals of the individuals are aligned and on a regular basis being seen and measured. So if you were to park that on one side, so you have the goals and you ensure that the goals are aligned by using a technology, by using people, leadership, conversations. Now, once you do that, the world now is very distributed. So you have a distributed workforce. And there is also an intersection of the conversations on leveraging analytics and data to help employees do their work. Do you see them both intersecting, the power of analytics and insights intersecting with the goal alignment for organizations and employees to drive performance?
Arun, definitely. as an organization, when the leaders come together, I think there is usually some form of clarity on how they actually articulate what is business success. However, breaking it down, down the organization, and this is where I think the larger the organization is, yeah, there is a challenge to ensure, that when you break it down, whether it's in terms of distributed teams or whether it's in terms, of, down to the last person on the ground, that breaking down, of what the business goals are into the smaller goals, whereby the individual understands, the impact of their work, right, to the overall business is usually where the challenge is. So knowing how to do that, having the competency and the skills to do that, is actually pretty important in terms of, this topic, in terms of goals and alignment.
Understood. And where do you think analytics plays a role in helping employees perform in this construct?
Well, I think the crux of, a good performance management system, when we talk about goals and alignment, is the availability of data. So if we don't look at, what data we need to collect, right? And if the organization does not invest, in whether it's the time, the technology to collect this data, it's going to be a challenge. I give you a simple example. We all know that, as a business, right, customer loyalty, customer satisfaction, good word of mouth is super important as an organization. But right down to the operational level, if you break this down, how do you know whether your customer is happy across the end-to-end customer journey? They may interact with us, face to face. They may interact with us, through, individuals, salespersons at different touch points. How do you know that at every touch point, right, throughout the entire journey, your customer, it has a good experience? What kind of data that you need to collect to ensure that happens, right? And how do you bring all this data up, collate it right up to the business level, so that if you're the business leader, you really truly understand how your customers feel about you?
Right. So thanks, Jack. So that's very clear. So you have goal alignment on one side. You need to be empowering teams on the other side. You need to empower them with insights on the third side. And then there are a lot of other aspects like building an inclusive culture. So before we wind up this conversation, so I want to touch upon a very important aspect which we at times tend to forget, especially when as technologists. So technology probably can help in many of these facets which we spoke about, right? So aligning goals, democratizing data, right? Or even helping employees with their talent options or empowering them with talent. In the enterprise of tomorrow, what is that, if I were to ask you, what is that one thing that technology cannot do and technology will not be able to do, which leaders and humans need to take the entire responsibility upon? What would be that one thing?
Communication and engagement. Okay, I think that's super important. Like I said, even if we have, all our goals clearly laid out, whether it's on paper, you use a system and the technology, but the clarity of creating understanding, right, is the conversations, and it's a people thing. If you don't sit down, with your team to explain, how their work impacts, the entire organization, it's not going to happen because they don't understand. They may not, have the clarity in terms of the impact that they can create. Yeah, so part of it is actually engagement with the people. So this is like, I suppose, the soft part, and part of it, yes, is part of culture that we create in the organization, to drive, the performance.
Wonderful. So if I were to distill the whole conversation of the last few minutes, it's that enterprise of tomorrow will be vastly different. It will be very promising. It will be very interesting. It will have to be goal aligned. It will require nudges, insights, analytics, talent development. But above all these things, there is still a very strong human component and human element, which leverages technology to build the right culture, right engagement, and collaboration and communication will be at the centerpiece of it. Wonderful, Jacqueline. So thanks a lot for building that perfect picture of enterprise of tomorrow. We at Entomo are extremely excited about how the enterprise of tomorrow will look like and our role in helping our customers and partners shape that together. Thank you.
Thanks, Arun.